Arcadian Vanguard presents the Wrestling News in your daily wrestling newscast for Thursday, September 7th, 2023. Good morning, I'm Mike Sempervive. We begin today with last night's edition of AEW Dynamite, broadcast live on TBS from the Indiana Farmers Coliseum in Indianapolis. Samoa Joe confronted AEW World Champion MJF in a promo segment angle on the show, which ended with Joe delivering a cheap shot to the champion and targeting his injured neck.
Oh, God. Samoa Joe continuing the assault that he began this past Sunday at All Out. And now Joe, will this be the scene at Grand Slam? Will we have a new AEW World Champion?
Oh my God, that changes everything.
And now Max biting Joe. MJF. He is fired up.
Got to keep that pressure on Joe. Don't leave an opening there for him.
As Max into the corner, but Samoa Joe spiked him.
I told you. He baited him in.
Yes, he did.
You saw Max. He was immediately clutching that neck. And no, Joe.
Adam Cole made the save and chased off Joe so MJF could be helped to the back. Joe vowed to win the World Title Eliminator Tournament and come after MJF's belt. Roderick Strong once again berated Cole for his friendship with MJF afterwards. Darby Allin defeated Nick Wayne via referee stoppage in a World Title Eliminator quarterfinal match, which was the main event of the show. Allin is scheduled to go on to Collision to face Roderick Strong, who also won his tournament quarterfinal match against Trent Beretta earlier. Jon Moxley retained his newly won International Championship in the opener, making his first successful defense against AR Fox. Chris Statlander also retained the TBS Championship against Emi Sakura. In other results, Hangman Adam Page was attacked by the Mogul Embassy during an in-ring promo, and Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara beat Aussie Open. After the match, Jericho and Guevara argued, leading to Guevara abandoning his tag team partner in the ring.
Few incidents of friendly fire in this match, and Sammy.
Yeah, but that'll happen in the course of a battle, guys. You all know this. Come on.
I mean, Sammy's been by Chris Jericho's side ever since the first Dynamite, October 2019, and now.
His tempers are going up, and these guys just got done wrestling a tag match, so your adrenaline's already flowing.
Now AEW's going to arrest both of them. In the ring to
do what?
Arrest them.
Arrest them for what?
This is ridiculous.
Not a little dress. It's the pro wrestling business. You know, arrest him.
Sammy walking out as pair of egomaniacs. That's what happens. Right there.
In ratings news, the Labor Day edition of Monday Night Raw drew a total audience of 1.704 million to USA Network, according to WrestleNomics, holding steady with last week's audience of 1.677 million. The rating in the key 18 to 49-year-old demographic was 0.52, also steady with last week's 0.51 rating and representing 673,000 viewers. AEW's All Out Go Home episode of Collision last Saturday night played to the smallest audience since the show began, as well as its lowest rating in the key 18 to 49-year-old demographic, according to WrestleNomics. The episode lost nearly half of its viewership over the course of its 2-hour runtime, beginning with 472,000 viewers for the first segment and closing with 244,000 for the final segment. Nearly 20% of the viewership dropped out after the first segment, which included the announcement of CM Punk's termination. Average viewership for the episode on TNT was 345,000, down 37.5% from the previous week's 552,000. The key demo rating was 0.11, representing 144,000 viewers and showing a drop of nearly 30% from the previous week's 0.16 key demo rating. In addition to being counter-programmed by WWE's Payback Premium Live event, Collision also faced competition from college football games on ABC and NBC. And in some unfortunate news, veteran wrestler, manager, and promoter Adnan Al-Kaissie passed away yesterday at the age of 84, as was first announced by longtime friend Mick Karch and was later confirmed by Slam Wrestling. Known both for his brief but high-profile stint in the early 90s as General Adnan in the WWF alongside Sergeant Slaughter, as well as his many successful years as Billy White Wolf, during which he held the WWF World Tag Team title with Chief Jay Strongbow in 1976. Al-Kaissie's career spanned nearly 40 years and followed a standout run as a collegiate wrestler for the University of Oklahoma in the late 50s, during which he nearly made the 1960 Olympic team. A native of Baghdad, Iraq, Al-Kaissie was a childhood friend and high school classmate of Saddam Hussein. It was there that he emerged as a standout amateur wrestler, eventually coming to America on an athletic scholarship. Unfortunately, his bid for the Olympic team was denied because he was not an American citizen, but he fared well in a highly competitive collegiate field that also included Michigan State's Tim Wooden, a.k.a. Mr. Wrestling Tim Woods, and Ithaca College's Bob Morella, a.k.a. Gorilla Monsoon. Al-Kaissie began wrestling professionally in Texas in 1959 under his real name, but soon took on the Native American character of Billy White Wolf that he'd used throughout most of his career. He'd achieved great success internationally in Europe and Australia, even winning the IWA World title in Jim Barnett's Australian WCW in 1967. In the 1970s, his past relationship with Saddam Hussein, then rising in power in the Iraqi government, led to a promotional partnership in which Al-Kaissie brought pro wrestling to Iraq for years. Although he acquired great wealth and success there, Al-Kaissie felt compelled to flee the country at the end of the 1970s due to a falling out with Hussein after his ascension to the presidency. Al-Kaissie also gained great American notoriety in the AWA of the 1980s, embracing his heritage to become the villainous Sheikh Adnan Al-Kaissie, a persona he later adapted into the WWF as General Adnan, being ironically brought into the WWF due to his resemblance to Hussein to serve as the manager of the Iraqi sympathizer Sergeant Slaughter. He retired from pro wrestling in 1998 and was inducted into the George Tragos Luthez Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame in 2020. He is survived by Kathy, his wife of 59 years, as well as 4 children. Once again, Adnan Al-Kaissie has passed away at the age of 84. And before we leave you today, we'd like to remind you that however you consume your content, you can find the wrestling news 24 hours a day and 7 days a week across social media. On Twitter, follow us at Wrestling News AV. Our Facebook page is also Wrestling News AV. The Wrestling News can also be found on the Arcadian Vanguard YouTube page. And for those who utilize Amazon Echo devices, just tell Alexa to play the Wrestling News podcast. And remember to make sure you add podcast at the end. Once again, for daily updates, breaking news, and more, follow the Wrestling News across social media. And that's the news for today. If anything happens, we will be here to tell you about it. No clickbait, no paywall, just the Wrestling News. The Wrestling News is a division of Arcadian Vanguard, and the Wrestling Newscast is a production of the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network.